Well, welcome everyone. Our presentation today is titled Student Engagement in Evaluating Learning Outcome Assessments. I am Dr. Aidan Vanderstijl. I'm here with my colleague, Dr. Michal Temkin-Martinez, and we are part of the Linguistics Department at Boise State University. We'd like to discuss the student-centered process and steps we've taken for program assessment over the last several years, as we've grown from a program within another department to becoming our own department, and some goals for where we would like to go next. Um, as we're getting started, we were hoping to take a minute to see who is in the room with us. A few of you unmuted or typed in before everyone got here, but if you don't mind just sort of briefly introducing yourselves and sort of your department and university in the chat, that would be great, just so we can see the variety of people we have here.
We'll pause for just a minute. We know we have two SCCs being represented, Salem Canyon College and Santiago Canyon College. So, oh, sorry, Salem Community College and Santiago Canyon College.
Houston, excellent.
All right. So we have two people from Texas, right? One from Tyler, Texas, University of Texas at Tyler, and then University of Houston, Clear Lake. Great. All right. San Bernardino Valley College. Very
Thanks.
cool. Nice. Awesome. Ebony, can I ask you, what is a DSA manager of assessment?
I manage assessment for Division of Student Affairs. So I
Got it.
manage
Okay.
assessment for 12 departments.
Wow. Wow,
Yes,
that's amazing. Very cool.
thank you.
Nice. Nice, nice. And Angela, so you're from an academic department and you're um, the outcomes lead. That's great.
Yes, academic department outcomes lead, new outcomes lead. So only like for a semester. So I'm still getting my groove.
Nice. Nice. All right. I'm trying to make it so that I can see everyone on the screen. Sorry for just a second. Perfect. All right. Excellent. For the two people who just joined, here is our slide deck. If you'd like to download that, but you don't need to. And Aiden, I think we're ready to go in. And if those of you who just joined us, if you'd like to introduce yourself in the chat by putting your affiliation and what your position is, that would be great. All right.
Okay, yeah, next slide. So in this talk, we're planning on giving a brief background of our program assessment reporting at Boise State, our trajectory briefly from our program status to department status, what our current learning outcomes and assessment approach looks like, including a student-centered workshop in our capstone course and a accompanying online exit survey, some initial findings and some subsequent changes that we made to our curriculum as a result of those, and then some lessons learned, future steps, directions for our assessment process. Michal.
So before we get started, let us tell you a little bit about where we're from. We are at Boise State University. It is a public metropolitan doctoral research. We are currently classified as an R2 in the Carnegie classifications, but we are very, very close to moving from R2 to R1. Historically, our university actually began as a junior college, was a community college, and has really grown in the last 90 years. And the nice thing about starting as a community college is that there's a very, very strong focus on teaching and on student centeredness. Our student affairs division really grew with us as a as a way of showing and supporting students. So I'm glad to see that there's some folks from student affairs here as well. Um, and there's been a lot of focus on student success with many initiatives to improve student retention in the last 5 years or so. And as the state university that's located at the capital at Boise. We are the largest university in the state with about 25,000 students. What we wanted to share with you now is tell you a little bit about our program assessment reporting process. So every single program, whether it's an undergraduate major that's one of many majors in a department or a graduate degree, participates in our program assessment reporting. This is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about the ways that we incorporated our students into our own program assessment reporting. There's an annual requirement in that we have to assess student progress on our program learning outcomes on an annual basis, but we do not have to report on our assessments every single year. Rather, every 3 years, we cycle into a reporting process. And that reporting process is staggered so that not all university programs report at the same time. So basically all university programs were divided into 3 annual reporting cohorts, and so we only report every 3 years, and there are 3 different parts to the report. So the first one, which we really enjoy as linguists and as people in social sciences and humanities, is a narrative where we talk about our mission as a program. We walk the readers of the reports through our assessment process, and then we talk about any continuous improvement that we've done from the last reporting period. The second part is an assessment table. This assessment table basically has our program learning outcomes, the measures that we use to assess each of the program learning outcomes, and then all of our findings and all of our actions that we've taken since the last report. And then finally, the third document that we use in our report is a curriculum map, which a lot of you might be familiar with, where we have our program learning outcomes, we have all of the courses that our students enrolled in, and we show where students are exposed to different activities and assessments to grow their mastery of our program learning outcomes. So with that, we wanted to take a quick pause and to see what kind of method your university uses for assessing programs. This could be for all programs, academic and non-academic. So does anybody want to share by just unmuting themselves, or if you'd like, you can also just write it in the chat. We moved to this process, I should say, from a sort of traditional program review of self-reporting, and then having external experts in our field come and give feedback on our site and on our reports, and then provide that to the administration. So yeah, so okay, we see people assessing annually, annual assessment reporting. Okay, that's cool. So Nancy, I see that you do program review every 7 years. Is that an internally only process, or is that external?
Internal and external, both.
Nice, nice. That's very cool. Is anybody else here at an institution where the assessment is only done internally? I should say there is, we have university level committees. Okay, yeah, I see. Thank you, Angela. We have a university committee that goes through reviewing all of the program assessment reports and providing feedback and providing support and help guidance in coming up, especially with our continuous improvement plans, for sure. All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
Okay, so to talk a little bit about our department is relatively new. We've only been formally established for 3 years. Previously, we were a program within a larger English department. It was the largest department in the state at the time, and that underwent a restructuring process at the start of the decade. During all of the pandemic stuff, it was loads of fun, resulting in 4 separate departments from what was previously one single department. And we are also a relatively small department. We have 5 full-time faculty members and 1 full-time staff member that also teaches a couple of courses each year. And our current full-time faculty have all been employed in our department for at least 10 years. And our staff member joined us in 2021. Our student population currently has 34 majors and about 20 or so minors. And our student demographics are relatively on par with the rest of the university. We are a PWI, but we have about 26% of our students are first generation, which is similar to the 27% as a university. About 20% of our students come from rural backgrounds, which is a little higher than the university as a whole. And we have 11% Hispanic population in our department with 15% at the university overall. And one of the most crucial and cherished aspects of our department, and one that we are actually known for throughout the university, is our central focus on our students. This tends to manifest in a few different ways. From the physical space we occupy, we now are all co-located in the same building, and we have public spaces and student spaces, as well as our own classroom being developed, that students will often spend time here studying, hanging out, meeting with each other, social times, to other things like a typically open door policy that all the faculty have, a lot of individualized and hands-on advising and mentoring, and a lot of engagement that we have with students both in and out of the classroom. Some students will just kind of pop in and through the door and say hi as they're coming into the building, and so we have a lot of interaction with our students throughout the day, whether we're in classes or not. This is an important focus for what we plan to share with you today about our program assessment. So since 2018, we have been involving our graduating students in our assessments each year through 2 main avenues. Oh, I should also mention that we are an undergraduate-only program, so these are graduating undergraduate students. And we have 2 main avenues that we use to go through this assessment. We have a group workshop in our spring capstone semester each year. And then we have an online exit survey that we give to all of the graduating majors at the end of that we ask them to fill out. So as we move through the presentation, we'll outline and illustrate this framework. We'll talk about the program learning outcomes we operate under. We'll kind of go through the steps that we take in our workshop and what the exit survey entails. We'll give some details about some findings that we had initially and some of the changes that we made as a result of that, and some of the progress that's happening with that since the changes have happened since the previous reporting period. And we'll give a few other lessons learned and some suggestions and ideas for some of our future directions, as well as possibly seeking some feedback on that as well.
Excellent. So, as part of our growing program in 2018, we received a university grant to spend time during the summer to create new program learning outcomes. This process involved discussions about what each of our courses currently covered, what we wanted them to cover, and what we saw as the most important things for our students to get from our program by the time that they graduated. So as a result, we now have 6 established program learning outcomes, and we have them on the slide. And they illustrate our goals for what our students should master by the time that they have graduated with a degree in linguistics. Some of them are more standard in that, for example, program learning outcome number 6, valuing linguistic diversity, recognizing the complexity and equity of all languages and linguistic varieties. I would assume that would be something very standard for a linguistics program. And others might be more standard for academic programs in general. So like number 4, applying linguistic tools and methods to novel data. That's probably fairly common in social science majors to be able to apply the tools from their discipline, the tools and methods to novel data. I'll give you just a few minutes to look at them. Not minutes, a few seconds. I will say that program learning outcome number 3 and number 5 have been the focus of a lot of our work. And so evaluating arguments and then evaluating them for different things, right? So evaluating arguments for in order to participate in public discourse, which is really important to us for our students to be able to be good citizens and use their expertise in linguistics. And then the second one having to do with evaluating arguments for content accuracy and theoretical contributions and methodological processes. Again, things that I believe most social science programs should be focusing on. All right, so some of these outcomes are broader than our discipline, as I mentioned, and oh, I just did the thing that I said I wouldn't do, Aiden. I totally, I totally jumped around, but okay, but yes. So, so what we really wanted to focus on is scaffolding the learning experience for our students, and so this meant that that our introductory courses are are only expecting our students to begin looking at program learning outcomes 1, 3, 4, and 5 and 6, and that they help students really develop their mastery of number 4 and 6. And then our mid-level courses really help students gain more developing understanding of all 6 of our program learning outcomes and to start gaining proficiency. And then finally, in our capstone projects, in our capstone courses, we expect students to show proficiency and mastery of all of our program learning outcomes. Was there anything you wanted to add to this, Aiden?
No, I think that covers that.
Perfect, thank you. All right.
So we're going to go through some of the workshop structure that we use with our students. So in order to evaluate if what we viewed as the alignment between classes and outcomes matching with what students demonstrated and felt they mastered, so did what we think they're supposed to be doing match what they think they're doing, we began conducting an annual workshop in our capstone course. All majors must take that in their final year before graduating. And so it's a way to catch all of our students in a time that they should have reached proficiency in these. So we schedule the workshop typically in the last few weeks of the semester and dedicate one full class period to it. We try to have as many faculty attend as possible. Although some years, not all of us are always able to make it, but we've never had fewer than 3 faculty members present. So at the workshop, we place students in small groups and we work through several steps together using color-coded Post-it notes and those very large Post-it pages that are strategically placed in the room and at their tables. So each group has one large Post-it page divided into 6 squares. And around the room on the walls are pages numbered 1 through 6 to match these learning outcomes. So students are given these piles of colored Post-it notes. They're shown a slide asking them to write down, and we can go to that slide. What knowledge, what skills, and what dispositions they experience in linguistics major that our major helped them develop. So they can say, I know this, I know what a phoneme is, for instance, or I can do Y, I can transcribe things into the phonetic alphabet, or the dispositions can be very broad. So I approach life for school or work in whatever possible way. So, I value diversity in languages would be a sort of example, or I feel comfortable with this. So not necessarily specific skills or specific things they learn, but sort of ways that they can see it in their broader understanding of life. And so this gives them a little time to sort of free think about their experiences, keep it kind of broad at the beginning, and then they usually discuss amongst their groups ideas. So many of them take classes with each other, even if they're not all in the exact same classes. And so it allows them to sort of pick each other's brains and kind of do a little bit of recall together for that. And so this is just some of the slides that we show them as we're giving them the examples and giving them some time. They put the different styles, whether it's a knowledge, skill, or disposition, onto a different colored Post-it note so that we can kind of keep track of what they're doing and how these different aspects of their learning are being able to be put into our understanding of those individual learning outcomes.
Aiden, can
And
I
yeah,
pause you real quick?
yeah.
I think it would be actually really interesting since we have such a wide variety of audience members to see if you were to select one of these post-its, right? I know blah, or I can blah, or I approach life or learning languages or people or in these ways. Um, for your programs that you assess, what do you hope a student would write as one of their post-its? So we'll just give you a minute or so. And this could be for anything, right? In student affairs as well. I can imagine students learning a lot of, having acquired a lot of dispositions. Very good, Angela. Very important. I know safe medication administration. Yes. That's for nursing, right? Yes. Good. It's basic but very fundamental. Absolutely.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
One of the things I like to tease our students about is that the professions that linguists go into, um, they, they're not responsible for people's lives, like in nursing or in engineering. Yes. Nancy wrote, I approach new ideas with respect. Absolutely. That's fantastic. So we all wish our students uh, would would have that disposition.
Yeah. And as you're thinking about it, you may also notice that those dispositions seem to be the slightly more difficult ones to come up with. We notice that our students can fill out I know and I can very easily, but then they kind of take a little bit longer to think through some of the dispositions as they're connecting the little pieces to the broader like
Yep,
world.
absolutely. Let's wait for a couple more examples in the chat. One of the dispositions that our students tend to write about has to do with the community members that they work with while they do their service learning projects. We are a refugee resettlement city, and so a lot of students will talk about their ability to use trauma-informed methodology in approaching different tasks with vulnerable populations, for example. Okay.
Yeah, and then the next slide just kind of shows how we ask them to start organizing them. And so they start by putting them into the left side of the big post-it, and we have them leave that little area on the right blank until we get to the next step that Michal will be able to go over.
Excellent. Okay. So as we continue this, we then have them work together in what we call collective recollection. The idea here is that we're really preparing them to have a self-reflective opportunity when they when they later we'll talk about the exit survey that they fill out. We don't want them to stumble as they're thinking about their experiences. And so, and a lot of students will sort of have selective recollection of certain things that really struck them as meaningful or as traumatic, maybe, in their studies. And so we like them to work in their groups to collectively recall things. And so a lot of our students have taken courses together, as Aidan mentioned. And in fact, by the time our students get to our capstone course usually has about 10 students in it. um, they've really coalesced as a cohort. And so they'll actually be able to remind each other of things that they've done and that they've reported on in different classes. And then during this process, the first thing that we do is that in their groups, we have them just list as many courses as they remember taking, which they list all of them. Our major is not very large, but we have them actually name the courses that they've taken. And then within each of the courses, we have them think about significant assignments, projects, and experiences from those courses. So it could be things like a service learning project in a second language acquisition class. It could also be the term project, but it could also be like a really small assignment that was done at the beginning of the school year to recall a certain skill that they learned in introductory course or something like that. So we have them write down as many of those as possible, and they write them down on yellow Post-it notes at this point. And then the next step then is for them to match the yellow Post-it notes that they just wrote out with all of this information to the skills and knowledge and dispositions that they came up with in step one. So we're helping them to actually make the connection between the things that they've acquired, right? The skills, the knowledge, the dispositions, and the experiences that they've had in our courses. Okay. And many times there will be a single course that touches on a lot of different skills or dispositions, or a single assignment even that helps them think about that helps them accomplish, those different things. And so we have them duplicate those post-its if one of the items fits more than one category. So this is these are the prompts that we give them. And we made sure to put these on the slide so that all of you can have them if you'd like to use them as prompts. And so like I said, it's naming the actual courses, talking about the assignments and activities that they're proud of in those courses, and then also cover the different topics that are covered in the different courses, whether formally or informally, and to describe the actual experiences. All right, so then we go back to the giant Post-its. We have them match it up, and we have them still keep this separated by course and by knowledge, skills, and dispositions.
Yeah, so once they have their individual group large post-it sort of filled out and that they've put all of the pieces together within their groups, we take what they've brainstormed, and this is when we present them with a list of the program learning outcomes. We read through them together. They each get an individual handout so that they can hold on to them. And we kind of talk through the kinds of things that we've expected from them. For a lot of them, this is the first time that they're really explicitly exposed to the program learning outcomes. And so this gives them a chance to ask questions about it as they're sort of becoming familiar with them. Most of the time, they're just sort of sitting and reading and taking in what they are. So what we have them do once we've presented that is we have them start thinking through all of the post-its that they have, whether they're the colored ones on the left or the yellow ones on the right. And we have them start assigning and thinking which ones go with which learning outcome. So if there's a particular thing about using data, then we may have them put that with learning outcome 4. If there's something about what they've learned about languages of the world and all the diversity with that, that would go with something like learning outcome 6. So we have them use that list of learning outcomes and start assigning each of their post-its to one or more of those learning outcomes. So they may again have to duplicate more of their post-it notes if there's a particular thing that they feel aligns with more than one of them. And so as they're doing that, we then ask them to take them and put them on. We have large post-its throughout the room, one for each of the learning outcomes with the learning outcome written at the top. And then they assign someone or a couple of them will get up and they'll start putting their individual post-its on each of the large post-its that aligns with this post-it goes with this particular learning outcome. And so it gives them a chance to start seeing how the things that they're recalling, the things that they're remembering, the things that they know and are able to do align with each of these different outcome categories. And so this gives us a chance to see which categories they seem to align with strongest, if there are any categories that seem to have fewer post-its attached to them. So one that typically has fewer is something like the conducting original research, just in the fact that there's typically fewer classes that specifically feature original research. And then there's others that we do expect a broader array of things depending on how many courses are more directly addressing those kinds of learning outcomes.
Excellent. So once, as you may have seen at the bottom of these prompts that we gave our students, we have students volunteer to actually help us place the post-its on each of the outcome sheets. It can get kind of unruly. There are a lot of post-its in the room, and once we do that, we actually debrief with them to see. To actually look and analyze what's in the room and what they've contributed. So the 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 patterns they've actually helped us notice mostly have to do with the number of post-its on each of the program learning outcome giant post-its, really showing us, well, I can't really recall very many opportunities to develop this skill, or I'm not really feeling like I can really speak to this skill. Um, and that's been really helpful to us in those conversations, because we then take those conversations back to our department meetings in our own ways of ideating new, ways of modifying our program learning outcomes and rethinking maybe what our curricular patterns are lacking. And so and we tell them this, right? We tell them that this whole workshop is really part of our continuous improvement as a department, and that it helps us really think about the student experience in their own way. We then, at the end of the debrief, we explain our next steps, which are introducing them to their online exit survey. And we explain to them that, yes, this is part of our assessment for the programs, but we're also interested in really learning about their experience and gaining a better insight into how we can improve their experiences or future experiences. So part of the data that we collect is confidence ratings on a scale of 1 to 8 for each of the program learning outcomes. So how confident are you in your ability to blah, 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 right? And then we also get overall program feedback and course experiences as part of our program evaluation that we use for other programmatic initiatives.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk a little bit about some findings from this workshop and things that we started noticing right away. So we've done this workshop every year since 2018 with a sort of protracted experience in 2020 for obvious reasons. So as we've continued it every year, we've been able to use the workshop data and these online surveys that kind of pair with it to start looking for some longer term patterns that are emerging and what we can do about that. So each year, the students are asked to evaluate their mastery of each of those learning outcomes in the online survey using a scale of 1 to 8, with 8 being the highest. And then using those responses, there have been a few patterns that really emerged relatively quickly. We did first notice that all of the outcomes did have a relatively high level of support. So the lowest one was 5.4 out of 8, ranging up to 7.5 out of 8 in the first year that they were filling this out. But within that range, we then also noticed that some of the learning outcomes, things like applying linguistic tools and valuing diversity, were much more strongly mastered, and most students rated them very highly, whereas a few others lagged behind pretty consistently. So those centered around participating in public discourse and critically evaluating content, theory, and method tended to be the lower range ones that were like 5.4, 5.5 at the beginning. And so there were some lags in some of the confidence around that sort of public discourse communicating with professional, non-professional audiences, as well as this sort of critical evaluation of these things. So we were initially trying to address some of the weaker confidence PLOs in our individual classes. So like, oh, well, this is something that this class does, so maybe we can be more intentional about that in this class. But it became pretty clear within a few years that these gaps in confidence weren't really able to be solved as clearly just on a class by class or individual instructor kind of basis. And so we had a few meetings and discussions. We were trying to diagnose what the sort of causes for this were. And we started noticing two pretty noticeable sort of sources for this. First, that not all students took the same classes. So having a sort of course by course process for this didn't apply to all students as equally. And not all classes are necessarily covering all the exact same outcomes towards their degree. So some of our upper level courses had research papers assigned, others have service learning projects instead. So not all of them might get the original research in the exact same kind of way. And second, and most importantly, there seemed to be a very noticeable gap in our course offerings where there weren't any courses required for all of our students that focused specifically on methods and research. And that seemed to align with those lower confidence level PLOs. At the time, our catalog was still reflecting the requirements from our time as a program within English. So there were a couple of required classes still for all students that were not necessarily as directly relevant to our social science degree as something that would have been for a broader English degree. And so these included a literature survey course and then a sort of broader communication-based course on argumentation. And so identifying these courses as not as directly related and noticing the gap in things that could strengthen our students' engagement with these PLOs, we ended up proposing and implementing some upgrades to our degree requirements with this goal of more directly addressing those needs of our students.
Yeah, so basically we made several changes to our curriculum as a result of these first few years of data collection, and it was really helpful actually in having data from years prior to our move out of the English department to be able to use data to say, you know, we need to um, we need to include new courses, and so we need to get rid of courses that are not going to be as useful to our students. So the changes that we made, the first one, as Aiden mentioned, had to do with that literature course and the broad argumentation course. We removed those requirements. Um, and and the second one was we created a replacement course to the argument class, which was our linguistic methods course. This course engaged students with a breadth of research methods found in our discipline. It teaches students how to read and analyze and critique arguments found in important articles from the discipline. And it provides students with tools to conduct their own research, culminating in a research proposal that actually outlines each of the stages of research that they would like to, that they would need to do in order to implement a project. This course is actually required for all students, which is great because we were able to take two course requirements that they did not need to have, and so we were able to add courses that are required without adding additional units to their degree. We also expanded our capstone course. We had a semester-long 3-unit course that we expanded to 2 courses over that same semester, each one being 7 weeks long and still 3 credits each. And so the first component of the capstone sequence is an advanced methods course that takes place over the first 7 weeks. And that advanced methods course basically focuses on a single subdiscipline of linguistics. And that is a subdiscipline that they will be actually carrying out an experiment in or a study in their second 7 weeks, which is the capstone experience. And so far, we've had 2 different subfields of linguistics represented in our capstone. But the idea is that the capstone course topic, the advanced methods and capstone course topic would be changed over the years so that students have the opportunity to get a real deep dive into a single discipline where they really learn about the methods in that single discipline and dive into a really a long-term project over an entire semester. We also were able to add a replacement course for the literature class in a course that we call Employing Linguistics. It's a career readiness course, and that course is taught by an adjunct who actually has spent her entire career working on ways to apply linguistics in a variety of settings. So preparing students for applying those skills in broad ways. She helps our students develop their CVs, their interview skills, and really helps them think about career choices and about what comes next, which is likely an initiative that a lot of your universities and colleges have as well. That's definitely been a big push at our university, and this course has helped us sort of comply with that, but also really help our students in preparing. We also expanded our internship and experiential learning opportunities through that same instructor being our internship coordinator, and through making new connections in our community and in our disciplines for our students to have better opportunities. All of these changes began in 2023, and so we're in year 3 of the new catalog, and all of our new students were placed into the new catalog of courses. And importantly, students who were under the old catalog, the last of whom should be graduating this year, were encouraged to take the new courses, and we provided academic adjustments for them, so that we had multiple cohorts already who've had these curricular changes implemented, even though their catalog did not require them. I believe, yeah, and we were able to do this because we have a very flexible catalog. We had a very flexible way of seeing our students' completion of their catalogs, and we have been collaborating with our college advising center as well as with the registrar.
So some of the impact and results that we've noticed, since implementing these curricular changes have been pretty notable already. So students have reported an improved level of confidence across all of our learning outcomes. And the key element that I think is really important here is that we've also helped close the gap between confidence levels across the outcomes. So it's showing that our course changes have had a tangible impact on our students and on our performance and their performance in the major. So in 2018, PLO5, which was critical evaluating arguments for content theory method, had a 5.4 out of 8 by graduating students, and by 2024, this number had risen to 6.43. So the confidence is raising and that gap is shrinking. So most of them are hovering similar in levels of confidence now and all higher than 6 out of 8. We have not yet looked at the 2025 data, but we are expecting this trend to continue. This last year and this year, all of our graduating students have gone through both the basic level methods course and the new format of the capstone courses. And so we have a little graph on the next slide that kind of shows the difference between 2018, where you see there are gaps in a couple of those PLOs that are hanging down much lower. And then by 2024, we see all of those have risen, and most of them are holding relatively steady with each other. We suspect PLO6 is going to remain the highest consistently because all of us highly, highly value showing the importance of diversity and equity and understanding the role of world languages of the world. So it's something that just comes up in all of our classes anyway.
Yeah, so in addition to the data that we have, we also have some student feedback on the improvements that we've made. We'll collect that feedback more formally this year, but over the last year and a half, really, we've had a lot of anecdotal reports from students in our 400 level courses, and we have one 400 level course per semester. That after taking that initial methods course, that introductory methods course, that it really helped them in their ability to situate their work within existing linguistic research, and that they really understood how to do research better, which has led to us, in turn, as instructors, not having to spend as much time on getting students to understand how to conduct research. We've also had students in our advanced methods and the capstone course be more confident in feeling better prepared in their ability to pursue research at that level, and to really be able to draw on several research experiences prior to their capstone experience. So it's really increased their ability to conduct research. And I do want to pause for a second and relate research to our students' sort of career readiness preparation as well. A lot of our students do not continue to graduate school, and what's really been important for us is to make sure that they understand that the fact that they're doing research can actually help them in building skills for a really wide variety of careers and post-collegiate opportunities, not just graduate school. We have students who are really interested in teaching abroad and living abroad. And a lot of our students end up working in fields where having research skills is really important, and having the ability to evaluate arguments and to make arguments is really important. And so really being able to, help students in reaching that confidence level, that higher confidence level, has been key for us.
Yeah, and overall, we've taken away some lessons learned and some things that we're trying to still work on. We have learned that students still seem relatively unfamiliar with the program learning outcomes that we have until they get into Capstone. And so we are aiming to still find ways to share these with students a little bit more intentionally earlier on, and trying to incorporate this into all of our courses earlier on at the start of each term. We've also been able to really benefit from involving students in this assessment program because of that feedback that they provide us. So not only have we, raised our metrics, which is something the university wants, but it's given us the ability to make these student-centered changes to our program and requirements and show how these learning outcomes are aligning with their experience through their coursework. It helps show them how collaborating with students reveals how they're in charge of their own learning. Giving them a chance to provide that feedback also gives them a chance to influence the learning success of future students that are in the program. We do think that there's still some more work to better our goals and our learning outcomes. So one of the things that seems to have happened is that by spending so much time looking over and talking about our program learning outcomes, we've realized that some of them could probably be written a little bit clearer and a little bit nicer, a little bit more concisely. And so this is something that we will be likely working on in the next couple of years to adjust them, not so much for the content of what our goals are, but more to make them a little bit easier to assess and easier to understand. So students don't seem to have as many questions about it. But these kinds of feedback have also helped us offer specific special topics courses and connected students to other teaching and learning opportunities based on some of the interests that they've expressed their need for. So this has given us a lot to go on as we're continuing to develop as a new department.
So as far as future directions and sustainability of our program and our assessment of our program, we will be using the student input as well as seeking out industry input and looking at industry demands for for improving our program learning outcomes, possibly adding new program learning outcomes that help orient students to skills that are important for future careers. And we're also going to be using direct measures to complement our current approach of collecting indirect measures. Um, in Right now, our plan is to collect student work from our introductory course, as well as to start assessment of work in that 300 level methods course, as well as our capstone course. Now, importantly, our introductory course only has about 10% of our students um, in the introductory course are linguistics majors. So we've been reticent to do an assessment of program learning outcomes in that course, but we've actually it's been suggested to us that having this sort of assessment and introducing students even into introductory course to our program learning outcomes could be a good recruitment tool for those students into our major if they see like, oh, by the time I graduate, if I change this major, I can accomplish all these things. So those are our ideas for direct measures is collecting information, collecting assignments from those courses. And so we wanted to ask you all, what direct measures do you use for your program assessments? So I think we can unmute because it might be too long to type it in the chat. So if anybody would like to share what they use as a direct measure.
Especially if it's a suggestion that we might be able to
Yes.
incorporate.
And even if it isn't.
We actually are kind of in the process of using a cloud-based system to be able to record and monitor and grab data for SLOs, which I'm saying we're in the process, like that's what we have historically been using, and it's not user-friendly because as you can imagine, as faculty, you grade in this spot, you put something else in this spot, you put over here, you have to go to another spot to do that. I just don't really have a whole lot of like I get about a 20% fallout of people who don't want to go through this. But
Mhm.
inside of that system, so each faculty in a course is obviously entering the outcomes of their SLOs, and then
Mhm.
that system automatically maps particular.
Wow.
So at the department level, we decide, hey, SLOs from this class match to this PLO for our program. Again, I'm a nursing faculty, so
Yeah.
I can use that. And so we kind of do that and we diversify the SLOs that particularly speak to the PLOs inside of our program. And so as instructors automatically put in the SLOs, it populates the data for the PLO. I will say, because again, we carry our own accreditation, like in nursing as an example, there
Yeah.
has been like it there is obviously room for improvement there. And we are actually looking to move away from that that independent cloud system to kind of maybe go more into a Canvas based
Okay.
so that there's an
Yeah.
ease of use for our faculty. But then like I'm not sure if I could continue to have that PLO interface with the SLOs if we do it that way. And
Right.
I'm not sure
Right.
if that's exactly what you were looking for a response,
Yeah.
but
No,
that's what I had.
that's fantastic. Thank you, Angela. That is really, really helpful. I think that reminded me that I have heard of the use of learning management systems like Canvas, like Blackboard, for collecting data on student learning outcomes that align with program learning outcomes. That's really fantastic. And I think that's one of the benefits of being a small program like ours is that we actually could implement something like that with very minimal fallout from faculty because there's so few of us, and everybody is generally just on board with like doing things to try and improve our ways of showing what great things we do with our students. So I think that is actually really helpful. Um, and especially if it's already baked into the learning management system, and if there's a way to sort of automate um, the the ability to do that. Um, yeah, and I know that there's definite fallouts of doing that, right? Of using the learning management system. Again, if you put it, if you put in the wrong student learning outcome, or um, if your grading is really harsh on one of the assignments, it could show that students are not meeting it. But instead, if that's the only assignment that's actually pulled out for the assessment. So, yeah, that's really great. Thank you so much for volunteering that information. All right.
Yeah, and with the last minutes we have, if there are any general questions or anything, we are also open to that. So thank you for being here and listening to us.
Hey. Okay. Well, thank you all. We really appreciate you joining us today for that full hour. Um, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the symposium.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.